Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are focusing on one of the most successful, most controversial, and just frankly one of the weirdest commercial products ever made.
It really is.
We're taking that famous red bottle, and our goal today is to strip away all the marketing, the mythology, and really analyze the history, the chemistry, and the just the sheer cultural force of Coca-Cola.
It's a fantastic deep dive because the sources trace this drink from, well, a genuinely odd 19th century medicinal tonic all the way to a global cultural icon.
And our mission, as always, is to cut through the hype, especially that famous idea of the secret formula.
Right. We want to understand why this product, above all others, achieved such, perfect global dominance.
The framing here is so important. If you're listening, you need to understand this is not just a chat about sugar water.
No, not at all.
Coca-Cola is an economic empire. It's a masterpiece of advertising and a case study in how cultural objects are, well, manufactured and then exported.
That's absolutely right. The material we reviewed really spans three distinct areas. First, the origins, which are almost accidental. Then the scientific reality behind the famous 7X ingredients. And finally, the surprisingly disruptive biological and cultural footprint left by, well, just drinking it all the time.
So let's jump back. Let's start at the beginning. 1886, Atlanta, Georgia. The U.S. at this time is in the Gilded Age. You've got massive industrialization, rapid urbanization. It's a time when people were feeling a new kind of nervous energy.
And that context is just key. The inventor, John Stith Pemberton, he was a former Confederate soldier wounded in the Civil War.
A pharmacist.
A pharmacist, exactly. And he was obsessed with creating what he called a nervine, a tonic to relieve those very modern ailments you mentioned, headaches, fatigue, general nervousness.
In his first creation, it wasn't a soft drink at all, was it?
No, not even close. It was an alcoholic tonic called Pemberton's French Wine Coca. But the sources are very clear on where the name we know today came from.
From the ingredients.
It's a literal description of the two main active ingredients, which were staples in 19th century medicine.
Yeah.
You had extracts from the coca leaf
Okay.
and extracts from the cola nut. That's where the caffeine came from.
So Coca plus cola.
Coca plus cola equals Coca-Cola. But what's really important here is understand the context of the coca leaf extract. It contains alkaloids. These are powerful plant-derived compounds that were just widely used in pharmacy back then, often with none of the strict regulations we have today.
So it was a pretty potent medicinal blend, but then history steps in and forces a huge pivot.
This is the critical moment, the thing that changed the entire company's trajectory. In 1886, Fulton County, Georgia, enacted prohibition. And Pemberton had to remove the alcohol from his product.
So that one small regulatory change basically kills his wine tonic.
Kills it dead.
But in its place, it creates the ancestor of the modern soft drink. He has to replace the alcohol with something else.
And he chooses flavored syrup, sugar, and carbonated water. He turns this pharmaceutical curiosity into a potential refreshment.
What's amazing, though, is that Pemberton himself didn't seem to see the potential.
He had almost no commercial vision. He was a scientist, a tinkerer, not a marketer. And he died having sold his formula rights off in pieces.
And that's the moment Asa Candler steps in.
Yes, Candler starts consolidating the formula and the rights in 1888, and he's the one who transforms this accidental drink into a global brand. He used strategies that were, for the time, revolutionary.
The sources really highlight that Candler's genius wasn't chemistry. It was marketing.
It was standardization and accessibility. He pioneered coupon marketing, giving away free samples just to establish a widespread habit.
Get people hooked on the taste.
Exactly. And even more importantly, he centralized the production of the syrup, but he sold it to licensed independent bottlers.
Which solves a huge logistical problem.
A massive one. It solved the problem of how to get fragile glass bottles of carbonated soda across the entire country quickly and efficiently.
So he turns a headache cure into a standardized, profitable habit. He controls the secret, the concentrate, and he just outsources the distribution.
And that standardization is everything. It's what allowed the formula to go from being just a local remedy to a mass-produced global product.
And Candler's other masterstrokes, something his successors leaned into even harder, was the marketing of secrecy itself.
Oh, absolutely. The whole concept of the 7X formula locked away in a high-security vault.
Yeah.
It's probably the most famous marketing strategy in corporate history.
And it makes perfect psychological sense, doesn't it? If you tell people something's a secret, They automatically assume it's magical.
Or priceless.
Right, priceless, instead of what it really is, which is just a very well-balanced mix of, well, fairly common ingredients.
And if we move past the myth and just look at the science provided in the sources, most of the drink is completely known.
Okay, so let's break it down. What do we know for sure is in there?
Well, you have carbonated water, obviously, a sweetener, which is either sugar or high fructose corn syrup, depending on the country,
Okay.
then caffeine, and caramel color. That's the E150 net, which is purely for the visual look. It gives it that dark color.
And then there's that signature bite, that sharp, almost metallic tang. What's that?
That is the phosphoric acid. It increases the acidity, which does two things. It balances the overwhelming sweetness.
That's through the sugar.
It cuts through the sugar, exactly.
Right.
And it also acts as a mild preservative. All of these are known, standard, food-grade ingredients. The real mystery, the proprietary part, is entirely within what's called the natural aroma mixture, the 7X.
So if the basic stuff is right there on the nutrition label, what is the real secret we're talking about?
What the sources suggest is that the formula isn't some alchemist's scroll with an unknown magical herb. The real advantage, the secret, is the near impossible task of reverse engineering the precise proportions of the aromas.
The ratios.
The ratios, the purification techniques they use to strip out certain compounds, and even the production timing. How long things are blended, at what temperature. That timing ensures consistency, which is absolutely critical for a global brand.
So it's industrial mastery, not chemical wizardry.
That's a perfect way to put it. And even the 7X component itself, it's widely speculated on. We have a pretty good idea of what categories of flavors are in there.
What does the analysis show?
The industry consensus, this is based on chromatographic analysis and historical accounts, suggests a blend of citrus oils. So orange, lemon.
Okay, standard stuff.
But also more sophisticated floral notes, like bergamot. And that's combined with spice essences, things like cinnamon, a little bit of coconut, nutmeg, and some vanilla-like aromas.
What's so fascinating is that the genius wasn't inventing some new flavor molecule nobody had ever tasted.
No.
It was about inventing a profile, one that's refreshing, stimulating, and complex enough that your palate doesn't get tired of it quickly.
Which makes it highly repeatable. It's the perfect engineered balance.
And that perfectly engineered balance brings us right to the next big question, one that really defines modern consumption habits.
The health question.
Yes. Does this perfect flavor profile come with a cost? We hear the dramatic claims all the time, is Coca-Cola poison?
When we synthesize the scientific data from the sources, the first thing we have to do is dismiss that extreme claim.
It's not poison.
A single serving is not poison. However, the sources are very, very clear that continuous high consumption introduces a significant what they call chemical load on the body. And this causes documented biological changes.
So it's fundamentally a sweet, acidic, caffeinated liquid.
Yes, but the sheer volume that's consumed globally is where the health risks really start to appear.
So let's detail the 4 major documented harms that the sources identify. Let's start with the most immediate one, the metabolic disruption.
First and foremost is the high sugar load. It doesn't matter if it's cane sugar or high fructose corn syrup. The sheer quantity delivered that quickly in liquid form creates a massive and frequent insulin spike.
And over time?
Over time, this chronic spiking dramatically increases the systemic risks for metabolic syndrome, for obesity, type 2 diabetes, and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease.
Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2 goes back to that signature taste we talked about, the phosphoric acid.
Yes. The phosphoric acid introduces a high acid load into the body. To buffer that acidity, your body can draw on its mineral reserves.
Like calcium from your bones.
Exactly. And if consumption is excessive and consistent, it can disrupt your calcium balance. This can subtly but materially affect bone density over many, many years. It's a key long-term concern that the data points to.
And then you have the original reason for the drink's existence, the stimulation.
That's the third point, the caffeine. While the dose is moderate, habitual consumption, we all know this, it impacts sleep patterns, it can increase heart rate variability, and for a lot of people it leads to a physical dependence.
The withdrawal headaches if you stop.
Those withdrawal headaches, yes.
And finally, there's the most visible, most immediate damage.
The fourth point is the direct assault on your mouth. The acidic structure, that combination of phosphoric acid and just the overall low pH of the liquid, causes rapid erosion of tooth enamel.
It just wears it away.
Wears it away, making teeth much more vulnerable to decay and sensitivity.
And if you connect all those dots, you realize the genius of the formula is also its curse. The sources highlight that the combination of that rapid sugar delivery and the caffeine hit, It powerfully triggers the brain's reward system.
It's an engineered addictive loop. It ensures consumers come back quickly for the next dose.
So the core conclusion, when you look at all the scientific literature, it isn't that is terrible for you.
No, the issue is not the occasional treat. It's the replacement of water with this sweet, acidic, caffeinated liquid as a habitual, continuous choice. It's a cumulative load that our evolutionary biology just wasn't designed to handle.
Okay, so before we get to its just staggering cultural footprint, the sources do mention a couple of very minor perceived benefits, right?
They do, and they are very minor. You have the light mental invigoration from the caffeine.
A little pick-me-up.
A little pick-me-up. And then there's the common public belief, it's almost folkloric at this point, that the carbonation can help settle an upset stomach.
Which is often disputed by doctors.
Highly disputed, yes. So let's pivot to the drink's real power. Anthropologists in the source material often define Coca-Cola as the world's most widely distributed cultural object.
Wow, that's a huge statement.
It is. It's not just a commercial product. It's the physical export of American culture, and specifically American capitalism.
And this global reach wasn't some slow, organic accident. It was dramatically accelerated by war.
By World War II, specifically. The sources detail how the CEO at the time, Robert Woodruff, established this remarkable policy. He declared that every American soldier, no matter where they were stationed in the world, should be able to get a bottle of Coke for 5 cents.
Just 5 cents.
And the company didn't just ship bottles, they followed the troops. They built 64 fully operational bottling plants near the front lines in North Africa, in the Pacific.
That's just astounding. It wasn't just a morale booster then. It was a Trojan horse for a global brand infrastructure.
That's the perfect term for it. By the time the war ended, that bottling supply chain was already established worldwide, ready to start serving local populations.
A ready-made global network.
Absolutely. Then, as the Cold War intensified, that red bottle became a tangible symbol of Western capitalism. It represented abundance, leisure, the American way of life.
In stark opposition to the austerity and uniformity promoted by communist regimes.
Exactly. It carried an ideological weight that was far heavier than its caloric content.
It really cemented this idea that branding and advertising can be forces that transcend language, transcend borders, and create this universal recognizable code that's understood everywhere from Moscow to Mumbai.
It became a non-military cultural weapon.
Okay, so if the history and the corporate maneuvering behind this company have caught your attention, and there is enough drama here for a dozen books, the sources point to some really extensive literature we can recommend.
Definitely. For a comprehensive look at the corporate story, the rivalries, the internal politics, you have to start with For God, Country, and Coca-Cola by Mark Pendergrast. It's really considered the definitive history.
And it covers the formula discussion.
It covers all the major formula discussions in detail. Then, for a closer look at the competitive side, the struggle to protect the brand, check out The Real Coke, The Real Story by Thomas Oliver.
What's the focus there?
That one dives deep into the rivalry with Pepsi, which is a story in itself, and all the internal conflicts over preserving that mythology of secrecy.
And what if you're just interested in the high-stakes marketing game?
Then you want Secret Formula by Frederick Allen. It details the famous and almost catastrophic New Coke crisis of 1985. It's a remarkable look at how internal strategy and consumer loyalty just completely collided.
Beyond the books, for anyone who loves digging into primary sources, the archives hold some real treasure.
They really do. You can find original formula notes, the key patent documents filed between 1910 and 1920 that protected the unique bottle shape.
The contour bottle.
The famous contour bottle. And there are vast advertising archives in public repositories like the Smithsonian and the Library of Congress. These documents trace the evolution of the brand image in minute detail.
So, to synthesize this whole deep dive, the true secret of Coca-Cola, it isn't really chemical.
No, it's psychological and logistical. The company perfected a flavor profile, sweet, sharp, cool, stimulating, that activates our reward system perfectly.
Yeah.
And then its strategist made sure it was available everywhere on Earth. Often, it arrived in places even before clean drinking water did.
It's the ultimate paradox, really. Built on a contradiction. It's not an acute poison, not in one go.
But it is a consistent biological burden when you consume it habitually. It became the world's most widely distributed cultural object by representing a chemical load our bodies were just never prepared for.
A product that is, at the same time, commercially brilliant and biologically burdensome.
That's the paradox. It created one of the most successful yet scientifically debated beverages in human history.
So, given its deep history, its global influence, and all the acknowledged trade-offs, we want to leave you with this question. How successful, really, is a product that simultaneously satisfies a powerful, engineered psychological and social need while posing a recognized and documented physical cost to its regular consumers? And maybe more importantly, what other modern, highly successful cultural objects share that same fundamental paradox? Something to think about next time you reach for that iconic red bottle. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're unpacking a brand that is, well, it's more than a brand. It's a global symbol. We're talking about Coca-Cola.
It feels like it's just always been there, part of the furniture of modern life.
Exactly. And yet its history is this really fascinating, highly controlled mixture of, real science, some pretty obscure legal procedures, and just brilliant, calculated marketing. It's like a modern mythology.
That phrase modern mythology is perfect because a huge part of understanding Coca-Cola is separating the myths the company wanted you to believe.
Like the super secret formula?
Exactly that. Separating that from the hard legal and design realities that actually made it all possible. It's how a simple drink ends up selling something much bigger, something like social belonging.
And that's where we should start, right at the beginning, with the design, because that's where the mythology really begins. You'd assume the inventor, John Pemberton, sketched out that famous logo. But that's not what happened at all. It was actually designed back in 1886 by the company's accountant.
The accountant, Frank Robinson.
I just love that detail. The sources say he drew the whole thing in a single sitting. And just like that, the most recognized commercial logo in history comes out of the accounting department.
And the choice he made was just critical for its longevity. He used what was called the Spencerian script.
Which to us today just looks like, elegant cursive writing.
Right. But in the 1880s, this was the standard for business writing. And if you unpack why that choice was so successful, I think there are a few key reasons.
Yeah.
First, it immediately communicated elegance and professionalism. This wasn't some, backyard patent medicine. This was a serious product from a serious company.
It gave it legitimacy.
It did. And second, the curves.
Yeah.
The fluid flowing lines, they perfectly mirrored the idea of the drink itself. Refreshing, easygoing.
But the third reason is the most important, isn't it? The fact that it just hasn't aged.
It never aged. That script created this feeling of perpetual sweet nostalgia. It always feels like it's from a simpler, earlier time, even when you're looking at it today.
It's just a masterclass in brand resilience, almost 140 years, and it's barely changed. That kind of stability, it builds a deep, almost subconscious trust with people.
And that stability is a good transition to our next point, which is anything but simple. Let's talk about the operational side, specifically the coca leaf.
This part of the story feels like it's straight out of a Hollywood script.
It really does, because even today, the process for handling that leaf is this highly controlled, very specific ritual, all because the U.S. government classifies it as a narcotic.
And there's only one company in the entire country legally allowed to import it.
One company, the Stepan Company, based in Maywood, New Jersey. That's it.
So how does that even work? I mean, this isn't some modern loophole, right? This goes way back.
It was set up in 1903, and the solution is, well, it's bureaucratic genius. So the raw coca leaves arrive from Peru or Bolivia.
Okay.
Stepan Company's main job is to extract the alkaloid, the narcotic component, cocaine.
Right. And then what do they do with that?
That material is sold under incredibly strict supervision to the U.S. government's narcotic agency. It's used for legitimate medicinal purposes.
So they split it. They separate the drug from the flavor.
That's the masterpiece.
Yeah.
The company gets to keep the flavor essence, the part that actually gives it that unique taste and smell, while staying completely compliant with drug laws.
And that non-narcotic essence is what goes into the secret formula.
Exactly. It's this amazing legal bridge from the old herbal tonic craze of the 1860s right into the modern global supply chain. It's just astounding they made it work.
And that complexity, that secrecy, it feeds right into the most famous urban legend of all.
The secret formula. The idea that only two people know the formula and they never fly on the same plane.
Yeah, the two people on the plane story, it's classic. But you have to wonder, why did they push that myth so hard, even into the 70s and 80s?
Because it's a fantastic marketing story. It creates mystery. It reinforces this idea that the product is completely unique, that it can't be replicated.
But the reality is, that's just not true.
Of course not. It's a cultivated myth. You have hundreds of chemists and microbiologists working in plants all over the world. They know what they're handling.
And the main ingredients themselves are not really a secret anymore.
Not at all. The sources are clear. You know what's in it. You've got your sweetener, which is either high fructose corn syrup or sugar.
Caramel color, caffeine, phosphoric acid for that little bit of bite.
Right, and then you have the natural flavors, and that's where the secret is. It's that essence mixture. Vanilla, cinnamon, different citrus peel oils.
So the secret isn't some magical unknown ingredient.
No. The company's actual protected intellectual property is simply the exact ratios, the precise recipe. Getting that balance right day in and day out across the entire globe, that's the real secret.
Okay, so the brand is built on this foundation of stability, secrecy, and nostalgia. And then we get to 1985, where they threw all of that out the window.
The Great Soda Rebellion. New Coke.
You have to set the stage here. This didn't happen in a vacuum. Coca-Cola was, for the first time, starting to panic.
They were. And it was all because of the Pepsi challenge.
Those blind taste tests. Pepsi was sweeter, and in a quick sip, it was consistently winning. It was a marketing nightmare for Coke.
So that panic led to this just staggering corporate decision. Their labs came up with a new formula. It was sweeter, smoother, rounder.
Yeah.
It was designed specifically to beat Pepsi in a taste test.
And they called it New Coke. But the crucial, catastrophic error wasn't just introducing it.
No. It was that they took the original classic formula off the shelves entirely. They just replaced it.
And the public reaction was not what they expected.
It was explosive. The sources don't describe it as a negative reaction. They describe it as America revolting. This wasn't about a flavor preference. People felt like a piece of their identity had been stolen.
The backlash was incredible. There were customer protests. People were sending complaints to members of Congress demanding they do something.
Restaurant operators were refusing to serve it. Op-eds were flying around with headlines like, "Coke is not Coke anymore."
And the irony is that the new formula actually did test better. Technically, it was an improvement.
Technically. But this is the ultimate lesson in marketing. They measured the reaction on the tongue, but they completely ignored the reaction in people's hearts and memories.
And it didn't last long. How long was it before they reversed course?
Just 3 months. After only 3 months, they brought back the original formula, now branded as Coca-Cola Classic.
Imagine being in that boardroom, realizing you had fundamentally misunderstood your own product on a global scale.
It's now seen as one of the biggest case studies in marketing history. It's the ultimate proof of the power of consumer memory. The brand had become a symbol that went way beyond taste. Changing the formula felt like changing history.
That symbolic status is so key. Coca-Cola stopped being just a drink and became, a symbol of the American lifestyle, of modernism, especially after World War II. It was the image of the Western world.
Absolutely. And there's this one incredible historical anecdote that proves just how political and cultural that symbol was. It's the story of White Coke.
This is amazing. It starts during World War II. General Eisenhower offers a Coke to Marshal Tito, the leader of Yugoslavia.
And Tito apparently loved the taste. But there was a problem.
A huge political problem. As the leader of a communist bloc nation, he couldn't be seen drinking from that iconic red and white bottle. It was just too powerful a symbol of American capitalism.
So he made a very specific demand. He wanted the drink, but he needed it to be transparent or colorless.
And the company actually did it.
They did. They produced a special small batch of colorless white Coke. And they even put a plain white cap on it with no red. It's now one of the rarest collector's items you can find.
That's just incredible, to go to those lengths to strip your brand of its primary color, just to get past a political barrier. It shows you what they were really selling.
They weren't just selling a beverage. They were selling access to an idea. The psychologist Vance Packard wrote about this back in the 1950s in The Hidden Persuaders. His point was that Coca-Cola sold social belonging. It sold an entry pass into the aspirational American way of life. And the story of White Coke is the ultimate proof of that. The liquid itself was secondary to its political meaning.
So when you pull it all together, it's a remarkable story. You've got century-old design scripts, complex legal frameworks for controlled substances, deep cultural psychology, and these powerful marketing myths.
Exactly. The story of the company is surprisingly transparent, even if the flavor ratios in the drink are not.
It's a lesson in duality, isn't it? The success formula isn't just about the precise ratios of flavor. It's about getting the emotional and cultural ratios right. That perfect mix of nostalgia, memory, and symbolism.
That's really the key takeaway.
So the next time you see that 140-year-old logo, maybe take a second to consider how much of what you're consuming is the actual liquid and how much is collective memory, shared culture, and even a potent historical symbol. And here's a final thought. If the public's emotional connection to the classic formula was strong enough to reverse a global corporate decision in 1985, what does that say about the power of nostalgia versus the push for, technical improvement in the things we use today? And what other simple product might you be consuming, not for its taste or utility, but for the sense of belonging it gives you? Okay, let's unpack this. We have a deep dive today that, it really spans the absolute extremes of our source material.
It really does.
We're going from your own individual biochemistry, your metabolic response, all the way to the high-stakes decisions of Cold War geopolitics.
And the thing connecting it all is a can of soda.
Exactly. A substance so ubiquitous, so woven into modern life, you almost don't even see it anymore. We are talking, of course, about Coca-Cola.
It sounds almost absurd, doesn't it, that one sugary drink could need such a wide-ranging look. But the assertion in the sources is genuinely provocative.
Which one is that?
That the shadow of a beverage can sometimes be larger than the shadow of an empire.
I think that's right. And our mission today is to follow that shadow. We're going to guide you through this just extraordinary stack of research.
Yeah, we're extracting the most important nuggets to show how this one product, this simple blend of flavor, sugar, and gas, perfectly embodies, the contradictions of the modern world.
It really does. Energy versus addiction, global opportunity.
Versus global risk. It's all in there.
And the material we're using is just fascinating. We've got pure scientific literature, Harvard, NIH studies, but also deep historical accounts, sociological theory, and even declassified CIA archives.
An incredible mix.
It's a strange pairing, but we're going to connect those dots for you. Let's start right now, at the personal level. The moment that can is opened.
I think that's the perfect place to begin.
So the scientific sources say that when you pop that top, you're not just releasing carbonation. You're releasing a kind of modern biochemical paradox. So what we want to do is track the first 60 minutes of a single sip based purely on what the science tells us about your body's reaction.
In this internal timeline, it's really a masterclass in food engineering. It shows how the formula is designed to bypass our natural defenses and just deliver maximum reward.
Right. So in the first 10 minutes, that enormous shot of sugar hits your gut. An immediate dramatic spike in blood glucose.
And your pancreas, which is basically the gatekeeper for sugar, it just shifts into emergency overdrive.
An emergency response.
Totally.
Yeah.
It floods your system with a huge dose of insulin. Now, insulin's job is to get that sugar out of your blood and into your cells. But the sheer volume is so extreme, so fast, the body is simply overwhelmed.
Exactly. Then, around the 20-minute mark, something else kicks in.
The caffeine.
The caffeine. It crosses the blood-brain barrier and starts blocking these key docking sites in your brain.
Those belong to a chemical called adenosine. And what you need to know about adenosine is that it's the signal that tells your brain, hey, you're tired, slow down.
So by blocking it, the caffeine is essentially pulling the plug on your fatigue signal.
It's a trick. Your brain is fooled into thinking you're rested, no matter what your actual energy levels are.
But the real driver here, the reward, is neurological. The sources say dopamine levels, the pleasure neurotransmitter, they effectively double.
And that activates the brain's reward circuit.
The same circuit that other substances target.
Exactly the same biological pathway. Now, the effect is much, much milder than, say, cocaine. But the mechanism is identical. It's an immediate, powerful chemical promise of well-being.
And this high is then followed by a mechanism designed to make sure you keep drinking. Around the 40-minute mark, the phosphoric acid plays its central role.
Yes, the acid. This is so important.
The studies show that if the drink were only that sweet, your body would have an immediate rejection response.
You'd vomit to prevent sugar poisoning.
But the phosphoric acid completely changes the pH in your stomach. It masks that overwhelming sweetness, allowing you to tolerate the extreme load.
And while that's going on, your fat storage hormones are elevating like crazy. Plus, that same acid, which is there for flavor and preservation, starts leaching into your system.
And that has its own effects, right?
Yeah. Studies link excessive intake to things like calcium depletion, which is not great for your bones or your tooth enamel over time.
And then the inevitable happens by the 1 hour mark.
The crash. That huge insulin spike is overcorrected, and your blood sugar just plummets. That initial rush is gone, leaving you depleted and
Signaling your brain for another dose.
another bottle. And if that cycle becomes a habit, and the NIH and Harvard studies are very clear on this, it can lead to some serious long-term consequences,
Things like insulin resistance.
where your cells just stop listening to the insulin,
Yeah.
type 2 diabetes, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. I mean, the list goes on.
So we have to contextualize this for you. The sources aren't saying a single Coke is poison. The core problem here, the historical irony, is what they call an evolutionary mismatch.
Exactly. Millions of years of our evolution are completely unprepared for refined sugar.
We evolved to crave high-calorie food because it meant survival when food was scarce.
Right. And refined sugar provides that signal at an unnaturally extreme concentrated level. It's a survival signal our ancient operating system just can't process effectively anymore.
That metabolic journey leads us straight from the body to the brain's specific neurobiology.
It does. The brain loves sugar because it promises life. But as you said, this processed sugar delivers an exaggerated promise of survival.
And the brain responds so well to the formula because it's this meticulously designed perfect storm of neurobiology. This is not just sugar water.
Not at all. It's a unique combination of three things.
Yeah.
Sugar, acid, and caffeine.
An engineered synergy.
Yeah, they enhance each other's impact. The sugar gives you the dopamine, the caffeine gives you the alertness, and the acid. The acid is the secret ingredient that makes the whole thing palatable.
That balance is everything. It creates this complex flavor that isn't just sickly sweet. If you took the acid out, it would be undrinkable.
Completely. The whole process is designed to create a taste that satisfies but doesn't instantly overwhelm you.
And the result of that balance is something really powerful, a memory trace. According to the sources, Cornell Food Lab researchers actually called this phenomenon Coke memory.
Coke memory, wow.
Yeah. This specific flavor profile is one of the hardest for the brain's taste memory to forget, linking that dopamine spike to the unique sensory experience.
Okay, so let's take that intense personal neurochemistry and scale it up.
Let's do it. We're pivoting from the body to geopolitics, starting with World War II.
This is such a dramatic shift from the molecule to the mandate, and the moment that transforms Coca-Cola from just a soda company into a tool of American foreign policy happens in 1941.
That's when the CEO, Robert Woodruff, he issues one of the most consequential corporate orders in history.
What did he say?
He declared, every American soldier, wherever he is, should be able to get a Coca-Cola for 5 cents.
Think about that. It wasn't about profit. It was about morale. Positioning the brand as an essential military supply, like rations or ammunition.
And the company partnered directly with the U.S. Army. The sources detail this massive logistical footprint it required.
How massive?
During the war, the company established 64 Coca-Cola bottling plants on military bases from North Africa and Europe all the way to the Pacific.
Wow. And these weren't just, temporary sheds. This was real infrastructure. It was a tangible form of American soft power.
It was. Drinking that familiar taste thousands of miles from home gave soldiers a psychological connection.
To home. A piece of Americana, right there in the middle of a war zone.
And that connection had huge post-war implications. When the fighting stopped, those 64 factories, they didn't just pack up and leave.
They became permanent commercial fixtures.
Exactly. Historians call this entire strategy cola diplomacy. The factories laid the foundation for America's massive global economic expansion in the second half of the 20th century.
They basically piggybacked on the U.S. military's global presence.
Which, of course, made that soft power an immediate ideological flashpoint during the Cold War.
Of course. If Coke was a symbol of Western capitalism, it was obviously going to be banned in the Soviet Union, and it was for years.
But here's the great irony of global capitalism. Even though Coke was the ideological standard bearer, it was its rival, Pepsi, that actually got into the Soviet market first.
Right, they signed that groundbreaking deal in 1972. The internal company histories say that made Coca-Cola executives just furious.
So the brand rivalry became a geopolitical proxy war. Coke was determined to cement its own diplomatic status, especially during the Reagan era.
And this period produced some of the wildest diplomatic anecdotes, and they're documented in those CIA archives you mentioned.
None is stranger than the story of White Coke.
Oh, this one is amazing.
Marshal Tito, the leader of Yugoslavia, he wanted the taste of cola, but he couldn't be seen publicly drinking this, brown, overtly American capitalist symbol.
He said it would shame him in front of the communists.
So what did the company do?
They just removed the caramel coloring. They produced a completely colorless, special batch of Coca-Cola just for him.
It shows the lengths they'd go to for political access and how powerful the visual of the brand had become.
So this competition, Pepsi versus Coke, blue versus red, it was a true global economic war.
It really was, and it culminated in one of the most unbelievable trade deals in history.
I love this story. Because the Soviet ruble wasn't convertible, Pepsi agreed to trade its syrup for assets.
Physical assets, specifically a fleet of Soviet naval vessels, old missile frigates, a cruiser,
In 17 submarines.
So for a brief moment, Pepsi, a soda company, had one of the largest naval fleets in the world.
It's more than an anecdote, though. It shows the sheer scale of commercial influence, how these brand empires were operating with state-level power.
If a brand can command a navy, it can certainly command culture. So let's bring the focus back to society and ritual.
Okay.
When sociologists study Coca-Cola, they see it as more than a drink. They see it as a global ritual, a shared cultural code.
And that's based on undeniable contributions. For instance, the sources are clear that Coca-Cola essentially standardized the modern visual for Christmas.
The Santa Claus we all know.
That kindly, robust Santa in the red and white suit was cemented in the public mind largely through their advertising campaigns.
It also, it fundamentally rewrote the rules of modern advertising, made the emotional connection to the brand more important than the product itself.
But on a structural level, this is where the sociological sources get really interesting. They argue that Coke was one of the first, clearest examples of how a global corporation could become more powerful than many of the nations it operated in.
They could sidestep regulations, leverage soft power for market access.
Influence tax policy on an international scale.
And that structural dominance leads right to the core analysis from Naomi Klein in her book, No Logo. She called this the beginning of global brand empires.
It was that moment where the brand itself, the logo, the color, that taste memory we talked about, that became the real commodity, not just the liquid in the can.
You're selling an emotion, an identity, even a geopolitical affiliation, all through a mass-produced flavor.
So if we synthesize everything we've just gone through, you start to see the layers.
So many layers.
We started with the molecular science of sugar addiction, moved through the colonial economy of WWII, tracked the ideological warfare of the Cold War, and ended up at global marketing and corporate power.
It is all contained in that one single, seemingly simple can. To truly understand Coca-Cola, its risks, and its massive rewards is to really grasp the dynamics of the modern world.
An incredible journey.
Which brings us to our final provocative thought for you to take away from this. If a simple, mass-produced flavor, that perfect storm of sugar, acid, and caffeine, can rewrite global history, dominate culture, and rewire the reward circuits of our memory, what does that say about the true, hidden power of taste itself? We encourage you to start looking for that specific Coke memory mechanism, that engineered palatability in other products you consume every day. What else has your brain been engineered to crave?